Hello, my name is Valerie Sutton, and welcome to the SignWriting Symposium 2016. This is presentation 54 with Dr. Rachel Channon, and Dr. Rachel Channon is sitting right here, and there's Steve Slavinsky and myself. Rachel, please tell us about your project. It's called SignTyp, isn't it?
That's right. Okay, hi everybody. Let me get my paper up here.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Basically, SignTyp is actually a set of items. It's a set of prompts. It's a set of videos. It's transcriptions in SignWriting, and it's a research database for sign languages. It's all included in a website, which I'm now going to switch to. Hopefully, I'm going to share the screen. Okay, full screen. Full screen one. Word. Start screen share. Okay, so this is the home page for SignTyp, and as you can see, there's we have prompts down here. We have our sign language dictionaries and various other things. Okay, I should have started by saying that this project is funded by the National Science Foundation, which through a grant to the University of Connecticut and to Harry Vander Hulst of the Linguistics department, and then through him to me. I'm doing a good bit of the work. Okay, let's see. So let's start with looking at the prompts. We took quite a while to make these prompts. There are about 1,000 of them, and usually when we contact a signer, we first ask the signer to do a sample so that we can make sure that their camera works with our system, and so that we can also make sure that we pay them and all those other little details. So so that they can understand the project. So the first prompt, for example, that they would normally do is cat. And of course that means that I now have many more copies of cat than anything else, videos of people signing cat. So we have cat, we have dog. You'll notice one thing that we have, for example, a slide of multiple dogs, a picture of multiple dogs, as well as pictures of one dog at a time, because we wanted people to get the idea. We want the concept cat or dog, not cat or cats. We're not interested in singular versus plural. Okay, we have horses, donkeys, camels, elephants, and so on. So then when the signer sends those back to us, then the next thing they do is they start working on numbers, which you would think might be rather boring, but I'm going to show you later that there are some very interesting number variations. So first thing is, this is a sign. We're trying to elicit the sign for number. And then we just go into we have them counting from 1 to 100, plus 0, and 1,000. These number prompts are a little different. Most of the prompts have 4 or more pictures, usually photos, but the number prompts just have little dots. They're much simpler. Once those are done, then we go into the rest of the animal prompts. These prompts were collected primarily from Flickr, the Creative Commons photos. It took quite a while to find them, and then there's also a number of pictures that I took myself. So these are relatively straightforward, and we don't have too much confusion. As you get down later, the slides get a little more complicated. So let's see if we can find. Okay. Here we have parts. So we have like a bird's nest, and then we have shells. And sometimes signers, instead of responding with one sign for a prompt picture slide, will provide several signs. So for example, this shell, the Nicaraguan signer provided 2 different signs because she feels that these are distinct items. There's a conch shell that you listen to, and another like a mussel shell that you open up. spider webs, antenna. You will often get more than one sign for antenna because we have different kinds. Some of the antennae are more fluffy than others. We have claws, and we also have feathers and fur and paws, so tails. Another sign that can sometimes be a little confusing for people is the last sign, last slide, which is animals. And sometimes people just give us a list of the different animals that are on the screen. But what we're really looking for here is a sign for animal, which in some languages may actually just be a list, as it happens. Okay, there's approximately 1,000 of these slides, as I said. They're divided into 10 sets. So we have the numbers, the animals, we have nature and body prompts. Those are things like sun, earth, plant, and then just parts of the body. Then we have clothing prompts and health prompts, food, tools, building and society. These would include things like weapons, transportation, and parts of buildings, parts of rooms. Roles, relationship, communication. These would be, okay, for example, these are the roles, relationships, and communication are some of the more difficult ones. So this, for example, is student. The next one is teacher. And then we have construction worker, miner, and so on. Then, let me see, going down a little farther, we have doctors, nurses, soldiers, bakers, kings and queens, various religious figures. And then we have, this is people, slaves, twins, babies. Let's see, I'm going to go down. Here we go. Okay. Then we also have we've got family and mother, father, grandchildren, grandparents, so on. And let me see if I can go down a little farther and find. Okay, here we have various slides for emotions. So afraid, happy, crying, sulky, broken. So we have alone, and so on. So those are sometimes the signer needs to think about exactly what's being presented there. Then we have recreation prompts, which are pretty straightforward. And then the last set is vision, space, and time. And this is the most difficult set. The first couple are fairly simple tools for vision. Then we have colors of various kinds, and then we have shapes, like squares, rectangles. And here we have a zigzag. Okay. Now, down later, we also have, then we have a tall person, short person, fat person, thin person. And then we have an interesting set that I'm hoping should produce classified predicates. So we have a straight walk down a quarter, we have a random walk down a quarter, and then we have a zigzag walk down a quarter. So what I'm hoping to get will be some differences between that slide for zigzag in general and the zigzag walk, and I think we are getting some differences. Then we have a bunch of topography, ocean, river, island, so on. And then we have some prepositions, and I'm going to show you some videos for the prepositions later because they've got some very interesting results. But basically, in the preposition set, I call it preposition, verbal, something, whatever it is. So anyway, we're looking at the red object and its relationship to the other object. So in this first slide, the red object is above and touching the other object. Here it's above, but it's not touching. Then we have the red object below and touching, below, not touching. And here are the two that turned out to be especially interesting. Here the red object is behind the other object, and here the red object is in front of the other object. And I'll show you later some of the results that we got that are quite interesting. We have inside and a couple others. Then we have time notions like older and younger, year, month, day, and night, sunrise, sunset, hour. The most difficult ones, and the ones I'm not 100% satisfied with, but it's not easy to get these concepts in pictures. So this is supposed to be the past. So we have all the years that are past, and then we up to 2015. And the next slide is 2016, which is intended to be present. And then we have the last slide is 2017 to 2022, which we hope gets across the idea of future. So that's a basic overview of what the prompts look like. We also have fingerspelling alphabets, which we don't really have prompts for in general because everybody is different. So after we built the prompts, then we started contacting various signers, and we now have a large set of videos. Not all of them are on the website because some of them have to be clipped. But we have about 13,000 videos. We have 9 that have completed the entire work, and those are okay. Those are China, Ethiopia, those are Lithuania, Turkey, the Philippines, Russia, Portugal, and the United States. Those are not necessarily all complete on the website, but we have a complete set of videos for each of those languages, and some of them still have to be clipped. And the other languages are in progress. So right now we have a few that only have 10 signs. They're lovely signs, but there's only 10 of them. And on average, each of these puddles has about 600, but the range is from 10 to 1,170. All the signers that we used, we paid and to work for us, are deaf or hard of hearing, except for one who is a hearing son of deaf parents. Now, I'd like to show you some of the videos which are very interesting. For this, I'm usually going to find it's easier just to show you the videos directly. Okay. So, all right. Let's look at just the sign for okay. This is the sign not for a specific number, but for the concept of number. That picture I showed you with all kinds of numbers on it. So let's see what we get here. Okay, this is a Chinese sign. All right, and what you can notice is that in some, but not all of the signs, you get that whole hand being used or two hands, and you get a fluttery effect. This is Croatia. Okay, so you can see the fluttery hands, and they're on in neutral space. This is DSL. This is, yeah, okay. The hand opens up. Ethiopian is a little different. It's a counting sign. German. Okay, again, this is a different. This one does not follow the pattern that I was telling you about. Honduran, there is. You have the open hand. Closing, in this case, is from spread. This is the Kurdish signer. Again, not following that pattern, but similar. Lithuanian, the clear, the fluttery fingers, in this case, two hands. Nicaraguan does not follow the pattern. She's counting. Okay. The Portuguese. Okay. Portuguese is different and the same. It has the fluttery fingers. I think I went and closed the wrong thing there. Damn it. Sorry. Okay. Hold on a second here. Okay. And then the last one is Venezuelan. So yeah, that's the prompt for number. Again, you get this either the opening of the hand or the closing of the hand is numbers. Now, one of the things that SignTyp is really interested in is variation. We want to see what is the maximum variation that we can find in sign languages. So that's why we didn't select 15 signers of ASL. We wanted languages maximally different, where you know, as much as we could. So in this case, let's take a look at some of the numbers in particular. Number PSR. Okay. Oops, that won't work. Let's try that. Okay. Now, the Portuguese signer, and possibly in this case, let me see if I can get the web page up. That may work better for, yeah, the web page will probably work better for the Portuguese signer. Okay, let's take a look at Portugal and search by words, number. Okay, so the Portuguese signer is very different. You can see that he's basically a graphic representation of the written number. That actually looks a bit like a 2. 3, I'm not quite sure where that came from. 4 is going to be clearly a representation. You can see the written 4 in his sign. 5, I think that looks a bit like the written 5. And then 6 is absolutely clear. Look at that. It's exactly a 6. 7 is, you know, it's a 7 on the side. 8 is very clear graphic representation. And 9, another graphic representation. So the Portuguese is just is a very unusual number system, in my opinion. Now, another change that we get, difference that we get, is variation between the units and the tens. Okay, so I'm going to show you the Venezuelan one. VSL. Right. Okay, in the Venezuelan one, we have, let's take a look at 36. And you can see he's crossing his hands. So he starts with a 3, and then he moves to a 6 after he crosses his hands. But now let's look at 63. And you would think you'd see crossing, but you don't. He's going to give you 6, 3. No crossing. So I can't fully explain that yet, but I think it's very interesting. Another thing we can also see is, this is something that really surprised me when I first saw it, but there's actually a very simple explanation for this one. Okay, we'll just take 24 is my favorite. Okay, this is 24, folks. Wait a minute. What did he say? 4, 2. Okay. Well, now why is that? Okay, well, just to prolong the suspense here, let's look at GSG, the German Sign Language, and let's look at his 24. 4, 2. Again, what a surprise. All right, well, the answer here is simple. It's because the spoken languages in Germany and Denmark both say the equivalent of in English 4 and 20 instead of 24. So they're just following the spoken language order. But I certainly was surprised when I first saw that. Now, the Rwandan signs are very, very, very interesting, in my opinion. Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at 30. Okay, first let's look at 3 in Rwandan. Okay, so naturally, okay, we probably should use All right, here's 3. Okay, that's simple enough, straightforward. Now let's look at 33, I think would be a good one. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 3. So you notice there's several occasions where you get the tens being treated differently from the digits. In the Rwandan system, the tens are produced by tapping the fists together the right number of times. So for 80, you tap 8 times, and then you use a digit symbol, 1, 2, 3, whatever. So that's very surprising, and I have no explanation for it, but my goodness. Let's take a look at some old signs from Croatia that they gave us. They were very nice. Okay, here's Croatia, 20. Okay, you see the fluttery fingers under the chin. Now let's look at 30. Fluttery fingers in space. All right, and let's look at 31. See, the digits are different from the tens. 40. Now, these aren't fluttery fingers, but they're on the chin, and it's the whole hand. So it seems that somehow the 10 is being symbolized partly by where you put it. That tells you it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, and then the use of the whole hand. See, 50. Also, the whole hand, and this time on the cheek. These are, what I was told was that these are old forms of signs being used in Croatia. So, very, very interesting. Not necessarily something that we can explain yet, but just neat to look at. Now, the prepositions. Let me see if I can get those. Okay. Yes. All right, here we go. Now, prepositions, I showed you the prompts. And what we're looking at here is the difference between viewer perspective and signer perspective. It reminds me of the fact that in sign writing we have a viewer perspective and a signer perspective when we write. This is not quite the same thing, but okay, let's take a look at the Chinese signers behind. Okay. All right, now let me do that again. So what he's doing is the object that's behind, actually this one isn't quite clear, but it looks like the object behind is in front for the viewer. Then, okay, here's the Honduran behind. Okay, all right, that's clearly, okay, from a viewer's perspective, the moving hand is behind from your perspective, not the signer's. Okay. Now let's look at the Lithuanian signer. Okay, so what she's doing here is she's doing it from her perspective. From her perspective, that moving hand is moved behind. See? But from the viewer's perspective, that's in front. Now here's a Portuguese signer. Okay, he's giving you the viewer's perspective also. Okay, now in front of, this is the Chinese signer again. Okay, so the moving hand is behind. Again, that looks to be from the signer's perspective. The Honduran signer, the moving hand is in front from the viewer's perspective. The Lithuanian signer, okay, the moving hand is in front from the signer's perspective. The Portuguese, from the viewer's perspective, the moving hand is in front. So now, unfortunately, SignTyp can't really answer the question of why this is happening. And the reason why we can't do it is because we have one signer for each language. And we only have, normally we have one example. So, is each signer consistent? Would they do it one way sometimes, another way other times? And within the language are all the signers going to use the viewer perspective or the signer perspective. So somebody else has to do that work, but SignTyp has certainly shown us something very interesting, I think. Okay, the last thing that I'm going to show you is body parts. So we're going to look at, just because I think numbers and prepositions and body parts are things that people wouldn't think are very interesting, but I found them have some very interesting differences. So let's look at eyebrow. Okay. Hold on. Now let's try that one again. Eyebrow. Okay, so in an eyebrow, the variations can be that you can just simply draw an eyebrow, or you can draw two eyebrows. You can draw the two eyebrows together, or one after the other. You can also depict the area of the eyebrow, and I'll show you last the most interesting one. Okay, so here's eyebrow. That's a simple, let me see, I believe she was doing eyebrow. Yeah, she just drew the eyebrow. That was easy. Then the Chinese signer, okay, he draws both eyebrows. Okay. The DSL, the Danish signer, he draws both one eyebrow, and yeah, and he uses the index finger. Yeah. The Ethiopian signer, both eyebrows. The German signer. Now here's the first one where we're not using one finger to draw the eyebrow, but we're kind of depicting the area of the eyebrow by using the thumb and the index finger together. The Honduran, he draws both. The Lithuanian draws one. The Portuguese, the Philippine signer draws, she's doing actually that depiction of the area, as a matter of fact. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. The Portuguese signer. Okay, so he's doing a depiction of the area. And, all right, I'll look at the Ugandan signer. Okay, see, she does one after the other. And now we'll look at the Rwandan signer. Something entirely different. He pulls at the hair. Okay, so that's the eyebrow, and then one more body part is the foot. As you can expect, most people show the foot using the hand. They have different parts of the hand and different ways of showing that, though. This one, I'm not quite sure what part of the hand that, I don't really quite understand that sign, but whatever. All right, the Danish signer. Yep, there's the toes wiggling. The Ethiopian signer. Yep, the hands are walking. The German signer. Okay, that's interesting. Honduran signer. Yep, more walking and finger wiggling. Yeah, that's a very full one. Lithuanian. It's interesting because it's as though there's only one foot there, not both. Okay, this one we're actually looking at. We're using the foot to describe the foot, and the Rwandan signer. Also, yeah, picks up his foot and show you the sign for foot. So we have quite a bit of difference in just these simple kinds of signs, body parts. We get some really interesting differences. So that's just an overview of a few of the videos we've collected. There's so many and so interesting, so many different things. But now we go on to transcription. We've begun transcription. We have more than 1,000 signs are transcribed. I'm not quite sure exactly how many, but we're moving right along. We have Valerie Sutton is doing the transcription with Nancy Romero and Jorge Paz, and Jonathan Duncan is probably going to start in August. So we may be interested in other transcribers, and if you are interested, you can contact Valerie or me. We are expecting to complete 15 sign languages, 15,000 signs by October of 2017. We are probably going to have more than 15 languages, but we only have the money to do 15. Now I wanted to show you some of the sign writing, just how it's interesting. Okay, let me see if I can pull up this one. There we go. Okay, this is an example of, just to show you the numbers being sign written in Turkey, Lithuania, Ethiopia, Nicaragua, Denmark, Honduras, and China. So you can just see, just to look right here, how similar the signs for one are. Although this signer here, the Danish signer, is actually using a thumb. Everybody else is using an index finger. The one thing that really differs is the orientation, or the palm facing. Okay, so the Lithuanian signer has a different palm facing. Then in 2, again, you can see 2 fingers are obviously being extended. And the sign writing just shows you this right away. It's really nice to see that. 3, you can see how there's 3 fingers. There's different choices of those 3 fingers, and you can also see that the palm facings differ. And the palm facings are consistent by language. So you can see that the Lithuanian signer always has that same palm facing, and so does the Danish signer, at least up to 4. As you can also see, after 5 is very, very consistent. There are languages, I showed you the Portuguese 5, which is not does not follow this pattern, and there are others that do not follow the pattern. But as it happens, these ones that have been sign written all follow this pattern of all fingers extended, which is the most expected version of 5. Then, as you can see, the 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 become more and more complex. So you often get the 2 hands, or you get different choices for how to display 6. And that pattern goes on. It just becomes much more complex. You start to get 2 hands, or sometimes the Nicaraguan signer, that, for example, 10 is being described as by using a 1, the index finger extended, followed on the same hand by a 0. That's an unusual choice for 10, but there it is. Okay. So now, let's see. So that's, what you can see is that numbers can vary in how many hands are used, how many fingers, what the palm facing is, and the arm orientation. Now, one of the things that's different in SignTyp is that because it's a research database, or it's intended to have a research database, we've added some special kinds of spelling. So let me see if I can pull these up correctly. I think this should be it. Okay. Let me see. Okay, well, I think I've lost it, so I'll just bring it back. United States, search by word, parrot. Okay. So here you can see a relatively complex sign. Okay. The signer is using a 2-handed first part, okay, and then there's a crook on the beak. And you can see that in the sign writing. Now, one of the questions is, because this is a computer is looking at the sign writing, so the computer is not going to know which of these 2 locations is the first one. I mean, any person looking would say, well, of course, this one with on the chin is going to be first, and this one on the nose is second. It's, it's written that way. It's obvious, but it's not obvious to a computer. And it's also not obvious to a computer which hand is doing what. So for that, we use the sign spelling. And here it is. Okay, so what we see here is we see things. Let's see. We see that there's 2 time periods. So that the column that starts is sign number. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items that are labeled 1, and then 4 that are labeled 2. That's time 2 and time 1. Then you see there's a symbol for location. That's the face with right there with that little mark, which means basically chin area. And both hands are going to be contacting or near that location. And then you see next, you see a handshake. Okay, which handshake? Which hand is it? It's the right hand. And then down below you see the reversed orientation and mirror orientation, and that's the left hand. Now then we have two actions. One action is for the right hand going up and down, and the other action is for the left hand going up and down. All right. So then now we get to the second part of this compound, and we see a location which actually, yes, okay, that's correct. That location is just for the right hand because there's only one hand involved here. And we have a handshake, an action, and a second action, all for the right hand. So sign writing by itself can't tell the computer these things, but with sign spelling, it can. So it makes a computer almost as smart as a human being, so to speak. Okay. Now, the purpose of doing the sign spelling, like I said, is for the computer. We're creating a research database, which is in its beginning stages. And the first part of it is what you can see when you export. So let's see, we take SignTyp conversion, and it's probably not going to be happy with me because, yeah, here it is. Okay, so here is the table that you get, or the file that you can get from each puddle, which is the beginning part of the research database. And here I've kind of colored in the rows that are connected with the sign for parrot that I just showed you. So here we have our locations, our handshakes, our actions, and then we have a new action. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Then we have our second time period, which has another location, handshake, and action. And then we have some other fields like glosses and a YouTube link and stuff like that. So now, okay. This is nice, but now if we look here, say at the handshake, which was a relative, it was a spread handshake. Okay, well this just says S14C10. Now this is the problem, or okay, how do I say? Sign writing is a wonderful writing system, and it is a wonderful transcription system. But the things that make it wonderful mean that it's not so good for research because it's compact. There's a lot of information in each symbol. So especially in those hand-shaped symbols, that hand-shaped symbol actually translates, and hopefully I can give you this. I hope I can provide this. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. Here's our research database. Okay. This is an example of what you would see in a research database. That one symbol for the hand, S14C10, is going to be translated into at least, I would say, well, really, there's going to be more than 4, but this is just to give you the idea. So now we know that it's going to be all fingers spread, the palm is facing the signer, the arm is tilted contralaterally approximately 45 degrees, and all knuckles are extended. Actually, there's going to be more material, more information, more detailed in the actual database, but this just, you know, to show you what it's going to look like. So each symbol is translated into one or more rows in the database. Once you have done that, and also, by the way, this is going to be in what you might call a controlled English translation. So although it's English, and lots of people would like other languages, because it's controlled English, it should be relatively easy to translate into other languages as well and get the same information. But now, with this database, you should be able to ask questions like, I want to know how many signs with all knuckles extended also have the arm tilted 45 degrees, and we have a chin location. How many signs do we have across all of those different puddles that have those characteristics? So we'll be able to ask more detailed questions with this database. So what are the benefits of this project? First off, I'm hoping that deaf people are going to enjoy using the dictionaries. Their friends, their neighbors, their family, their interpreters, their teachers, their students can all look at these dictionaries and learn something. they're dictionaries. They're not. They don't show you the syntax of the language. These dictionaries that we have with 1,000 prompts, there's no reason you can't add to them other signs. For example, we have no pronouns. There's various things that we're completely missing. Those can be added, and that can be done for free. Now, if you want to do transcriptions, they will have to be paid for. Sad to say. If somebody wants to add a new dictionary, that's free. They can do that. One of the interesting points that we did aim towards doing is that we have a lot of languages which are not as well studied. Lithuanian, Croatian, Rwandan, Ethiopian, Venezuelan, the Haitian, Honduran, Kurdish, and Nepali. Those are all relatively less studied languages, and so I'm very proud of that fact that we've got those languages. We're also doing some collaborations, and I'll show you one. If I can get this out of the way. This is with the Summer Institute of Linguistics. This is a dictionary maker that's called Susel. And the advantage to this is this just shows you the Chinese signer, and he's signing, I think I can make it, let's see, I can make it play. He's signing very. And you can see the little prompt there too. So it's very similar to the SignPuddle, but the advantage is that this can be taken offline. For example, in China, YouTube is blocked. In Haiti, the internet access is very difficult, and there's other countries that also have difficult access. So Susel, we're hoping, could be used to give a dictionary to countries that would otherwise have difficulty accessing the internet. We're just working on that now, but I'm not saying it's done yet. And Kamusi is a web-based project that's trying to make dictionaries that are better than Google's dictionaries, have better ability to differentiate senses of a word. And Kamusi is also trying to work with us. And finally, the European Sign Bank. So I think that's really most of what I have to say. And thank you very much. And goodbye. Let me see. I'll turn off my screen share and say goodbye. Okay. Oh no. Valerie,
Don't say goodbye. Don't say goodbye.
Okay. You are recording my sound.
You're still here.
Yeah.
No, and you're still on, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you're still here, Rachel. That was an outstanding presentation. Wow. You know, I've been working with you now for several years on the SignTyp project, but I actually didn't know all of that information. So you really did provide us with important information in this presentation. And if you don't mind staying for just a little bit longer before you run, I'm sure you're very busy, but I'd love to ask you some questions. And the first thing I wanted to tell everybody is that Rachel and Dr. Harry van der Hulst in the University of Connecticut have just done a marvelous job in finding the funding through the National Science Foundation, and perhaps you even have other funding, I don't know, but somehow you kept the SignTyp project going, and it wasn't easy, was it? I mean, you have to apply for grants and wait for the funding, and it took years. I think Rachel and Dr. van der Hulst and I have been in contact about it for maybe a decade. Is that possible? I mean, just so everybody knows, this is not a small project. It's not something that just happened overnight. It's like one of those things that's finally blossoming, you know, but it took so many years of patience on everybody's part. And Steve, if you could unmute your area too, I'd like to introduce Steve Slavinsky, because Steve, of course, is our tech support and our director of this particular symposium, but Steve is also the developer of software called SignPuddle Online. And I know that it probably is so obvious to the three of us, but actually when Rachel was just showing the screen of the SignTyp project, that was actually underneath Steve's software called SignPuddle that is a part of the SignTyp project. So basically, Steve, hi Steve, can you hear us? Okay, there you are. So Steve developed the software and then worked with Rachel, and it took several years, and they slowly built the SignTyp project to be on the University of Connecticut's server. Isn't that right? The
Yes.
Yukon server. So Our organization, the Center for Sutton Movement Writing, is a little nonprofit organization here in the United States. We're very small, and there's no way that we could receive such a grant from the National Science Foundation all by ourselves. But with very small funding, Steve and I have been working together for many years, and Steve has been very generous with his time to develop SignPuddle Online, which is free, and anybody can go into SignPuddle. Go to signpuddle.org, and you can use our open and free dictionaries and software. But when the SignTyp project started, Rachel contacted us and wanted to somehow apply the beauty of the SignPuddle software that Steve developed, but then also, what would you say, enlarge it and use it in a new way. And so the SignTyp project started using the help of Steve, and presto, we got it up on the University of Connecticut server. And then, wow, then a new phase started, and Rachel started getting all these beautiful videos. You know how she just showed us all these lovely pictures and photographs of dogs, and what was that all about? Well, actually, I think not everybody may be aware, Rachel, that you sent out these pictures to just all kinds of people all over the world, right? Yes. And they agreed to look at the pictures and stand in front of a camera and sign the sign that they know for those items. And that's how you have now almost 13,000 videos, isn't that right? Yes. And then those videos and the pictures that went with them were put into the SignPuddle database that is located really on the SignTyp and University of Connecticut server. And so it's like everything blended together, and then now we're in a new phase because I'm involved now. Wow, I'm very excited, Rachel. I want to thank you for wanting to put in the sign writing and having all these videos transcribed so that we have the sign writing right next to the video. It's a beautiful project. As you said already, it's a combination of a dictionary for the everyday layperson who doesn't know anything about linguistics. They can still go in and see a video of the sign from all these countries, and they can learn the different signs from those countries, but also learn sign writing by seeing the sign writing right next to it. But then Rachel added a structured sign spelling page so that linguists like Rachel and Harry and other people can benefit from the linguistic information that is put there. And the unique thing about SignTyp is it isn't just like SignPuddle Online, it's much more, because you're adding this linguistic information which can then be flowed into, if I understand correctly, an Excel database. Isn't that right? Or
a database, Access, whatever software you want to use, really.
Is that right? So that means that whatever kind of a database structure somebody owns, whatever software they own, they can use it. You just said Excel, and I don't know Access. I'm not very skilled at these things. But your comment about how sign writing itself is a really visual writing system. It's like it's like a piece of art almost, where every sign that we write not only looks like the sign, but it's also the way we feel it, the way we express it, and we get this into this nice little unit. And the symbols, they're almost like a little cluster, if you know what I mean, like a little universe in their own space. And then once we get the sign written, we get to recognize it and we start reading it really fast. But a lot of these sign languages have never been written before, have they? So certainly I have never seen the signs from Honduras or from Turkey or whatever the country, China. What beautiful set of videos those are. And all those signs we've never even written before, because although sign writing is used to write over 40 sign languages, one of the sign languages we never have written is from China. I bet they have many Chinese versions or dialects or different languages within China, such a large country. But whatever version of Chinese Sign Language you have there in this one signer, I'm sure there are going to be handshakes and other things that we've never seen before. Sign writing is actually enormously flexible. The International Sign Writing Alphabet 2010, which Steve has encoded as TrueType fonts to make all of this possible, it is actually quite large. We have over 200 handshakes in there, and I assure you that American Sign Language only uses around 80 of those. So we do have handshakes from other sign languages besides our own. We've worked with Brazil, and we've worked with so many countries to try to add the handshakes they need. But sooner or later, probably with Chinese Sign Language, we're going to find some handshakes that we just never saw before. Ethiopia, we have written a lot of, and we do have Ethiopian handshakes in the International Sign Writing Alphabet 2010. But what I'm really getting at is that I feel really excited about the SignTyp project, because you're also helping us expand sign writing. In other words, it's going to be a benefit to everybody, because we're learning what's needed to write the world's sign languages. And even though we're already very international with sign writing, we're not international enough. We have not reached every corner of the earth. So I feel like sign writing has greatly benefited from being a part of SignTyp. And to finish, what I want to say is that I've enjoyed doing transcription, and we also, as Rachel already mentioned to everybody, we have other transcriptionists. There's Nancy Romero, a good friend who is really skilled at sign writing, and I'm looking forward to working with her. And we also have Jonathan Duncan, who has developed software, actually, but now he's asked to be a transcriptionist. Why not? And then there's Jorge Paz from Honduras. And I believe there will be other transcriptionists, possibly from Portugal. So we are going to develop a team of transcriptionists, and all of us really enjoy sitting down and looking at the videos of one country and just writing what we see and feel. So we want to thank you, Rachel. It's a great project. Yeah, it really is. And Steve, what about your development side of it? Do you want to say anything about how SignTyp has evolved?
It was a very interesting project, and it continues to be an interesting project. We have Rachel with the linguistic focus, and we have you with your visual writing focus, and we have me with my computer encoding focus, and trying to get all of us together to talk and understand what we're talking about. It was a pretty interesting project. The structured sign spelling that is unique to SignTyp, after talking with Rachel over a series of a while, she came up with that, and I told her what we could do, and we worked together really nice, and it's a very exciting project, and I look forward to it going on and on.
Yes, I do too, Rachel. So thank you so much. Everybody go to the webpage Presentation 54 to see more, or there you can click on a link and go directly to the SignTyp database up on the Yukon server. So thank you, Rachel, and we'll be seeing more, I hope, in the future symposiums about SignTyp. Okay.
I hope so too.
Yeah, have a good day, and thank you, everybody. The next presentation is Presentation 55. That will be a new link, so look on signwriting.org for the new link to Presentation 55, which will start in about a half an hour. And it will be Steve Slavinsky discussing the encoding of something called formal sign writing, FSW, which is the basis for all of our work with sign writing in software. So thank you very much, Rachel, and bye-bye.
Hang on.
Bye-bye. Yes, you go up to the